hundreds of rap bands on the internet who are chuckling out the words 9 to the dozen. But the interesting thing about that text is Carlyle knew it would create enormous problems, even in that era, when he backed the governor of Jamaica over putting down riots there, when he backed, and John Stuart Mill formed a committee to have him arrested and tried. The beginning of this idea that war crimes are done and you must try people after the fact in emergency situations. All of these things which come to fruition in the wars of the 20th century have their precursors in earlier liberal orders. Don't forget, liberalism was once a minority position. They once used to meet in semi-secret. They had little handshakes for each other.
As opposed to, of course, when we come to power, we'll try people in advance.
Yes. One more question, bearing in mind the finitude of the room.
Just that, in my account, there's several mentions of Carlyle.
Yes.
People had a high regard for Carlyle. What would Carlyle's view of it be if he was alive?
I think there's great respect for. Well, he doesn't talk about Napoleon very much. It's interesting, but there's great respect for titanic leaders who bring together great strands of energy and try and mould things progressively for their own people. His reputation died less in Germany than at any time. Certain people have been mentioned already in the question: Stern, Lewis, Carlyle obviously because of the talk. It's noticeable that all of their reputations took a hammering in the 20th century. And they all took a hammering in the 20th century. Don't forget, Carlyle was virtually a cultic figure in the 19th century. People...
Do they have his bust? Like bust
yes, well, there used to be pilgrimages up to... This is an Englishman, is it? Ecclefechl.
My father took me there when I was 14.
And you could sign the book, and so on, like a holy figure, essentially. And in the 20th century, mid-20th century, they dipped down because he was a racist, because he was allegedly an elitist, he was anti-democratic, he was Germanophile, he was all these appalling things that we needed to get away from, and so on, as it was perceived. Because, of course, for the identity out there, patriotic British people define their Britishness in partly in an anti-German way, and have been taught to do so. So because of Britain's history in the 20th century. And Carlyle believed that actually, as in some ways a Celt, as that extraordinary sort of, his father was a stonemason, that sort of, that independence of mind of the craft as a group. You've got a group that doesn't have capital but has great learning, or has the capacity for developing it. So you have a sort of economically independent, radical individualism of mind.
You know what I was thinking of when you talked about his approach to history as a living thing? I thought for some strange reason about David Hume and his approach to how we can know historical truth, and also his theory of mind, in which he keeps talking about force and vivacity.
Yes, as essential Western.
It seems to me that's Carlyle, according to you. Force and vivacity.
Yes, and meaning comes from that. It's hostility to passivity, to hostility to received wisdom. To know the past is to experience it, and the only way we can experience it is textually. He would, probably like the postmodernists, considered film and all the ways in which we now view an image of the past as other texts. And
wait, aren't they?
Yes, they are. But that was a very radical notion in his era. And the interesting thing to me is that Carlyle, there's been a great boom in Carlyle studies and Victorian studies at the end of the 20th century, because what people are doing is confaced with the dilemmas that we now have. They're reaching back to these great figures who were blocked out from the middle of the 20th century.
Well, Lewis is still blocked out.
Pretty much. Although, for those who are interested, an exhibition of all of his portraits begins tomorrow at the National Portrait Gallery in Trafalgar Square.
Wait. Okay, I have to go.
You didn't finish
one last question.
You didn't finish the gentleman's question that he asked you. You divert.
His view on, like Frederick the Great, his view on Hamilton.
In the end, one can't know, but he would probably consider him to be a great leader in the European tradition, which is a blasphemous view now. Let's face it, the most blasphemous view of all. I gather a waxworks to swords of Hitler has been produced now, which is going on show this other week.
Someone tore the head off.
No, it was vandalised today.
Really?
Yeah, somebody ripped the head off.
Besides, they made him look old. They did him in the bunker. He's all broken down.
Oh, yes. That was... It's sort of, I think a German Jewish civic leader said on Thursday in the Times, as long as it demystifies him, we're in favour. So, of that to sort of exhibit.
Can I just point out that
Wyndham Lewis wrote a book on Hitler.
Yes. Oh, yes, he did.
His letters to and from Ezra Pound have been edited by Omar Pound, Ezra's son. Ezra's son is Omar Pound.
I once attended a meeting of the Wyndham Lewis Society which has partly kept his name alive in the barren years, and I said, when's the Society going to finance the republication of Hitler? And they went, no, we'll do the Volga Streak, we'll do Rotting Hill, we'll do the Apes of God, we'll do Tar, we'll do the Human Age, but we're not doing Hitler, we're not doing Paleface, we're not doing Count Your Dead, They Are Alive, we're not doing all those ones, you know. So you sort of 75 years, and you can publish what you want.
I was just going to say, William Joyce, Lord Hawthorne, used the code name Carlyle during the war. I don't know how many you might know that. That's the
Yes. Yes, it's an interesting. It's sort of what side would people have adopted long after they're dead? In the end, one can't know, but one can sense the cultural partiality and sympathy that they would have. And the truth is, he wouldn't have been brandished, he wouldn't have been neglected, he wouldn't have been marginalised had people thought he was a liberal who wanted to include everyone and believe that everything was equal and votes decide everything.
There's no more them and us. There's only us.
Thank you very much.
Bravo.